So guys, I have this video here called I played since closed beta. Path of Exile has a problem. And of course that if I see this video, I have to watch it. It got recommended to me. It has gotten a lot of views in a few days. So I am very interested in seeing what is happening here. And as you can see, the very first frame that he puts in the video is not from Parceron, obviously. He puts a clown make or whatever, a wig, a clown wig and nose on Parceron. So I am interested on seeing, on hearing what he's going to say in here, right? So let's check it out.
Like what the meme of friction is slowly like getting demystified, right? Like this thing where, oh, more clicks equals you care more about it or whatever. It's getting more and more demystified. I wonder when that's going to swap over finally to unidentifying and whatnot. So we can finally only identify fun stuff like Watcher's Eyes or like the belts.
I have said this exact same thing. I have said this exact same thing. I have said this take. Am I a clown too? I agree completely with what Parceron is saying. I agree so much that I have said it myself. Am I a clown too? Yo, come on, brother.
And everything else we can kind of filter, sort of like Last Epoch, where they're still very much against that, but I think that's just the next step as well, right? Like,
yeah, we'll let them know. Yeah, we'll let them know.
What we just listened to is the voice of the modern Path of Exile community, and it absolutely terrifies me.
Hey, I am the modern Path of Exile community. I just started playing like 1.5 years ago with the launch of POE 2, right? So I am definitely the modern audience for Path of Exile. But I agree completely with what Parceron said. Now, I suppose our brother in here is called Hardek. I hope I am pronouncing it correctly. I am sorry if I am not, Hardek, if you ever watch this. I suppose you are going to explain why we are wrong, right? Because I totally believe that identifying items sucks and it should only be reserved to cool stuff in the end game where you can sell it unidentified for other people to identify it and gamble on that, or you buy it unidentified to gamble on that. It is something fun and cool, right? But every single item in the game that is inconsequential, being unidentified, is absolute dog shit, and it is unnecessary friction that we don't need. It provides zero benefit to the game. Let's continue.
It's hard to imagine it's been 15 years since we first stepped foot on raid class. Path of Exile's ongoing development has been the almost singular beacon of hope for hardcore gamers who have been disregarded by the rest of the industry in favor of cheap experiences designed to cater to the lowest common denominator gamer. The existence of grinding...
Again, guys, am I the lowest common denominator gamer? But dude, if you want to make a successful game, appealing to the majority of people is what will give you success, right? And I think that Path of Exile sits in a very comfortable position where they are not going brain dead. Path of Exile 2 specifically, because Path of Exile 1 is still very complicated for new players. It has gotten less complicated to get into, let's be honest, and I suppose that is where he's coming from, that it has gotten less complicated over time, which is absolutely true, but it is still very complicated for new players. POE 2 is trying to make it even less complicated and get new players, but it is still the most complicated ARPG, well, the two POE 2s, outside of the Path of Exile environment, they are still the most complicated ARPGs. What is more complicated? Not even Last Epoch, that has the skill tree for every single ability, is as complicated as Path of Exile, right? So it is still not for the lowest common denominator. Like, GGG is in a place where the game is complex enough that it is challenging, but they are trying to, I don't want to say don't be down, but they are trying to make it easier to get into so that they can attract more people, because that is a good business decision too. And I think that is a good position to be in. Like, if you want to talk about lowest common denominator, you can talk about Diablo Immortal, right? Something like that, not even Diablo 4.
Gear games and their success is what gives me hope for the future of gaming. The idea that a small group of passionate people with a vision can make a world that I want to spend my days in is one of the only things that brings me optimism when I think about what has happened to the gaming industry over my lifetime. I started my exile 15 years ago while I was attending a collegiate summer school during my
I definitely respect that, and I wish I had gotten into the game at that point to look at all the crazy evolution in the game, right? So I definitely respect the opinion of someone that has watched the entire journey. But at some point, it also gets into the nostalgia effect, right? Like in WoW, where you have the people that prefer the retail WoW and the people that prefer the classic WoW. And a lot of the thing, classic is probably better, right? But a lot of the thing that goes in there is because of nostalgia, because you are missing how things were when you were younger and played the game at that point, right? And that is never coming back, even if you can play the game the same way.
high school years. As I'm sure a lot of you can relate with, being a nerdy high school student who watched Crip streams all day didn't really
I did watch Creep streams a lot at that point in time too, and I tried to get into Path of Exile because of Creep, but I couldn't. I bounced back from the game really quickly. And at that point, I am going to be honest, guys. You guys know that I don't lie. At that point, it was not because it was too complicated. I hated the graphics. And I know that is not a reason to dislike a game, but I couldn't do it, man. I downloaded the game, I installed it, I played for a little bit, and I said to myself, this looks like dog shit. And I uninstalled right there. That is everything that I can tell you.
make you a popular person in real life. And like you, I'm sure, I was okay with that. I didn't give a shit about girls or climbing the social ladder. I wanted the game. But more importantly, I wanted the game to mean something. You see, something I struggled with all
Again, I can respect that. I am also a nerd and I also like to game, but at the same time, guys, don't neglect your life for gaming. Gaming is cool. Unless you are a professional gamer, don't neglect your life for gaming, dude.
my life is the identity of being a loser. From a bird's eye view, a man spending his waking hours in front of a screen is emblematic of everything wrong in our culture today. The incel, the no life, the guy people tell to touch grass. But I'd argue that a man who found a world worth caring about, a community worth belonging to, and a challenge worth losing sleep over is anything but a loser. The losers are the ones who never cared about anything deeply enough to be called a nerd about it. So, I hope it's clear how much
I don't want to discuss the definition of loser, but I don't think that is what loser means. Either of those, by the way.
I love this game and the people who built it. But sometimes the people who love something the most are the ones willing to say what others won't. And I think grinding gear games may have lost their way.
They didn't.
Path of Exile has no grind anymore.
What? I am literally grinding right now in POE 1. Because the jump from where you do the 4 void stones to be able to do the Ubers, you have to grind your ass off to get better gear to be able to defeat the Ubers. You can tell me that the grind was bigger before. But you cannot tell me there is no grind. There is definitely a grind. I am literally grinding right now. Right? In this stream, you guys were watching me grinding Delph for 1 hour and a half. Right? We are definitely grinding. You can tell me, no, but the grind is not as long or impactful as before. Why does longer equals better? That is not the metric that I gauge how good the grinding is. The metric that gauges how good the grinding is how much fun I have while grinding. That is the metric that I judge, not the time invested. Because if it takes 100 hours, but it is dog shit, it sucks. But if it takes 5 hours and it is fun, then it is cool. It can also take 100 hours and be fun. Definitely.
I don't mean that as a casual observation. I mean it as an indictment of almost every major design decision made in the last several years. The grind was never the obstacle. The grind was the point. It was the friction between you and the power that made the power feel like something. And piece by piece, that friction has been sand.
I understand that point, and he does have a point in that last thing that he said. He does have a point in there, guys. That, but me personally, I can only talk by myself. I am a very goal-oriented player. In everything that I play, I am very goal-oriented. So when I am grinding in any game that I play, I am doing it because I want to reach something, to beat something. So I am grinding to get the gear, to beat the Ubers. After I do that, I no longer want to grind for the sake of grinding. And I know that a lot of Path of Exile players do grind for the sake of grinding. And that is why I said, me personally, I am not that player. When I don't have a reason to grind, I don't grind, right? So I do understand that point that he's saying there. He's saying that grinding for the sake of grinding should be fun. But I do think that right now in Path of Exile, grinding for the sake of grinding is fun. I see a lot of streamers that play for the sake of grinding, and they seem at least that they are having fun.
It away until what's left is a smooth, frictionless ride from level 1 to max gear with no emotion to show for the journey.
That is not what is happening right now. Maybe you are feeling that can come in the future, and that is why you are making this video, because you feel that if we continue down this path, that is where we are going to end up. First, so the first step is that I don't think we are there right now. I do think that there is definitely a grind, and I do think that you definitely feel the progression, and you definitely have to earn your progression. Majority of players don't kill Ubers in the leagues, right? Majority of players don't do that because you need to invest time to get your character there. Also, the second step is that I don't think the game will get there. When you watch an interview with Jonathan and Mark, they obviously like some amount of friction in the game, some amount of grinding in the game. For example, one of the questions they ask all the time to Mark and Jonathan, and they said, dude, we are not going to do that, is the auto sort button for the inventory or for the stash. That me personally, I would like that. I want that feature. It is a nice quality of life feature. Every game has it. Auto sort my inventory. What is the problem? GE said no. We are not going to do that. And they have asked them point blank, and they say no. That is not happening, right? So I know that scenario that he explained is never going to happen because of the philosophy the game designers have in there, you know.
Let's start at the beginning, the campaign. The evolution from a 3-act journey you ran 3 times across 3 separate difficulties to a full 10-act arc was a massive achievement. GGG built something genuinely epic, but expanding the world didn't fix what was happening inside it. 15 years ago, the campaign had teeth. Every zone had friction, and every boss had gravity. I still remember the dread of entering the city of Sauron for the first time, knowing somewhere in the fog was a bear trapper that could end your run in one hit. And campaign moments like killing the Vol Oversoul felt like an accomplishment because it was one. Even the thought of killing Piety on hardcore on release felt like a pipe dream. These weren't just encounters you clicked through. They were moments the game built towards and demanded you be ready for.
Okay, I understand this point, and I agree, to be honest with you guys, because I felt that in my very first playthroughs of POE 2, and that was one of the reasons why I loved POE 2. It was because there were bosses that you had to play the game, right? Like Count Gion or Yaman Ra. Still to this day, people have challenges fighting Yaman Ra, right? And it is cool that that happens. It is cool that that happens. So again, that is my argument. That is not lost. We literally have the new game in POE 2 that has the bosses that are called wall bosses, because if you are not ready, you can get stuck or can die a lot, right? But what happens? It was more prevalent in the first season or in 0.1 because we didn't know the game. And that is what is happening here, brother. I know there is power creep. Obviously, power creep happens. But also the player base gains knowledge. You have done this shit 10,000 times. Of course, it will get easier. Now, I don't get stuck on Gion or on Yaman Ra. I don't give a fuck. You destroy them in hardcore and you don't give a fuck, right? I destroyed these bosses in a punch only. You can watch these videos on my channel, by the way. Punch only challenge, solo self-found hardcore, and I defeated them. It feels cool, but now you know what you have to do. The knowledge you gain makes the game easier just by the nature of sheer repetition. So it doesn't matter what GGG does, it is always going to get easier, even if the game stays static.
I remember grinding Cool Ledge for hours just to find the support gem I needed. Not because I necessarily wanted to, but because I couldn't move forward without it. My build had a hole in it, and the game made me go fill it. Now, you walk up to a vendor, spend a transmutation orb, and continue to blast off. I get why that feels like an improvement to people, but something left the room when that change happened. The game used to send you looking for things before you could beat it. Now the campaign is a loading screen. It's a thing you do before the game starts. Players race through it in a few hours, brains completely off.
Okay, he made 2 points in there. I completely agree with one, or I completely disagree with the other one. So the one that I disagree with is the first one. I am going to rewind it to be able to pinpoint exactly what he said, but I remember the second one, which is the one that I agree with, and it is that you rush the campaign to get to the end game, right? I do that. Like, I am not a fast campaigner, but I don't like the campaign in POE 1, to be honest with you. But it is not because of what he's saying. It is because I don't like the campaign in POE 1. But in POE 2, I do like the campaign, and then I don't feel like that. It is because specifically the campaign in POE 1, I don't like it. It is not because of the reasons you are saying. And I do like the end game a lot in POE 1. So I do want to get to the end game as fast as I can do it, because I am not a fast campaigner, to enjoy the end game. But in POE 2, I don't have that same feeling because I enjoy the campaign in POE 2, right? So it is not because of those reasons.
I get why that feels like an improvement to people, but something left the room when that change happened. The game used to send you looking for things before you could beat it. Now the campaign is a loading screen.
So he basically is arguing for having grind for the sake of grinding, right? He's saying that the campaign made you have to look out for things. Sometimes that can be fun, but that is not inherently a good thing. In fact, if you have to constantly be doing that and backtracking and looking for shit to be able to continue, that is what people describe as a slog. That can definitely be a slog. That can definitely make you alter for a game if it is constantly. Sometimes it is cool. Okay, I have to figure out my build. But if you have to do it every single moment, it is annoying. It can become annoying entirely. Like, we have to understand that friction for the sake of friction is not what is good. There is good friction, there is bad friction, and the same happens with grinding. There is good grinding and there is bad grinding.
It's a thing you do before the game starts. Players race through it in a few hours, brains completely off, and the game lets them. It was designed to let them, and that's a mistake, because the campaign was...
Also, you also have to understand that if the game is designed to make you run the campaign again, every single league that you come back, in a way, the campaign has to be designed in a way that you can blast through it, because how many times can you run the same campaign and feel the same excitement? It also comes to a point that you don't want to do this shit anymore. I have done it so many times that I don't care about this shit. Get me to the good part, right?
Where you fell in love with Ray Class. It was where the game taught you to respect it. When you remove the struggle from the introduction, you remove the emotional foundation the rest of the game is supposed to stand on. And then you reach the end game, and the problem doesn't get better, it gets worse.
The end game is the best part in POE 1. So let's hear what he has to say in here, because the end game is the best part in POE 1. I don't know. At the start, I thought maybe this is a rage bait video, when at the end he says, hey guys, I am just joking around. But he has made a couple of good points. If it was pure rage bait, why are there a couple of good points? Does he think the couple of good points are rage bait too? Play POE 1 for the first time without a build guide and tell me it's frictionless. Larry, Ace as fuck. I agree absolutely with you. That is exactly the truth. Obviously, now that you have 15 years playing the game and you know the leveling builds and you know what the bosses do and you have build guides, obviously you go brrr, but play it for the first time without knowing anything and without following anything. A lot of friction. A lot of friction. At this point, I don't think it is rage bait because he has made a couple of good points that don't make sense if it is a pure rage bait video. So I do think this is his actual opinion. Which is fine. I am not saying it like, oh, how crazy it is that you have this opinion. It is completely fine. Again, I have agreed with some things, but I disagree with the majority. But again, this is the part where it is going to get serious because I love the endgame in POE 1. I fucking love the endgame in POE 1, and he's saying that the endgame gets worse. So let's see what he has to say about the endgame.
You used to have scarcity, not in a punishing way, but in a way that made finding the right item feel like an event. The economy meant something because not everyone had everything. Your build had compromises and workarounds and creative solutions born from necessity. The tension, that gap between where you were and where you wanted to be, was the game. Now,
I do agree with that take. But you know what? Why I agree? Because it is like that. I do feel like that right now playing the game. You can say you are a new player, you don't know how it was. And yes, I don't know how it was, brother. I am sorry. But right now, I do feel it like that. It is like that. I am here. I want to be there. I am going to grind for my currency to get the items that I need to get there. And I've been doing that since I started playing, and I am loving it. I think it is fucking awesome. Sue me.
now that gap is gone. Currency floods in, the market is saturated, and you could assemble a fully functional build so fast that the question of, can I afford this, barely has time to form before it's already answered.
It depends on the build. There are things that I cannot afford. I cannot afford a Mage Blood, a Headhunter, a Proto-Genesis. I don't have that currency because there is scarcity. You said there is no scarcity. Yes, you can go to the trading site and see that the item is there. Do you have the currency to buy it though? Not everybody does. And you can ask the vast majority of players, and they won't even dream of having a Mage Blood because it is too much currency. I don't have a Mage Blood. I don't farm from Mage Blood because it is too much. Fuck that, right? So, I don't agree that everything is free and that you can have everything. Are there builds that are very cheap and you can put together fast? Yes, there are builds like that. But not every build is like that, and not every item is like that either.
Yes. And when nothing is scarce, nothing is precious.
Not everything is abundant. He's making it seem like everything is free. And again, if you play the game right now, not everything is free. Maybe it is easier to acquire than before. Again, I didn't play before. But there are chase items that you have to farm to get. And a lot of people don't want to grind for that currency. And I am an example. I don't want to grind for a Mage Blood. For that, I can play without it, for example. And that can be one of the reasons that he says, well, you don't need a Mage Blood and you can have a functional build for way less than that. And I would agree with that. But again, there are steps of grinding where the more, like, as you continue progressing, the stuff that you need is more and more scarce. So, and because it is scarce, it gets more and more expensive. So I disagree with that take because it is not true. If everything was abundant, if there was an infinite supply of everything, everything will cost 1 chaos. And that is not the case. Why are there items at 200 divines? Because there are not many items like that. In fact, you can go into this shed. You will tell me that this is not an argument, but this is definitely an argument. You can open this and you can get this item, let's say. And if I click everything in my item to look for an item that is like my item, I come up with 0 items. There is not another item in the whole game like mine, right? Because you get to a point that shed is so specific that even if everybody's crafting and doing shed, nobody has it exactly the same. It might have 2 missing things and you can take it to this place, but it is not exactly the same. If it was true that everything is there, I could just look for the item and find it in the trade. But it is not there, because it is not like that. There is absolutely scarcity. Also, you guys have been saying it a lot in the chat, and it is absolutely true. I agree with you guys. If he wants a grind, you have solo self-found and you have ruthless, which he probably knows, he probably plays, and his argument is that he wants the main game to be like that, right?
This feeling isn't unique to trade leagues either. During my latest hardcore solo self-found run, I had more divines and 6 links I knew what to do with even before hitting red maps.
No, that doesn't happen to me. Absolutely. That doesn't happen to me. Maybe it is because I am dog shit at the game. But that, to me, it is not like that. To me, it is, I don't have divines that I don't need. I need divines all the time to keep improving my build.
The game now makes finding those items feel like a requirement instead of a reward. When was the last time you clicked a normal chest in a map? When was the last time you hunted down the last 30 remaining mobs because every kill felt like it mattered? When was the last time you farmed blue maps because your build simply wasn't ready for rare modifiers yet?
This is the part that I don't agree with. You see, he's now arguing for grinding for the sake of grinding with no return on investment. This is what I have disagreed the most in this whole video. This is the part I disagree the most. You are arguing for grinding for the sake of grinding with no return. There comes a point, and remember guys, I want to be hired as a game designer for GGG. GGG, if you are watching this video, hire me already, man. I try to think as a game designer sometimes, polishing the ability, right? If you have something that provides absolutely no benefit and it is just a waste of time, why the fuck does it exist? At that point, it is better that it doesn't exist, because you are not giving fun, you are not providing anything, you are just making the player waste time. Why do I have to be stuck on blue maps gaining nothing, right? It makes no sense. I will give you an example real quick, and look, I play Sudoku all the time. I even have this shit opening here. So it is great for this example. I play Sudoku all the time. I don't know, by the way, sorry for the flashbang. Let me see. Okay, flashbang gone, flashbang gone. I don't know if you guys play Sudoku or know anything about Sudoku, but once you know the rules of Sudoku, doing notations is a waste of time. Doing notations meaning in this square right here, I know that I cannot have a 1 and I cannot have a 5. I cannot have a 2 and I cannot have a 5, right? So that means that in there I can have a 3, a 4, a 6, a 7, an 8, or a 9, right? You can do this cell by cell, but that is a fucking waste of time. That is a useless grind, because I know for sure that I have the knowledge to do this. So what do? You do filler candidates automatically. And now you have it like this. And now you do the puzzle. Why do they put this? Because it is a waste of time to do it manually. Let's get to the part that matters. That is he's arguing, in his chat, he's arguing to put all the fucking numbers manually. No, that is a waste of time. Fuck that. Fuck that. Get me to the part that matters.
The journey of the endgame used to be a game in and of itself. The slow accumulation of maps and loot made the exciting moments feel exciting. You could brick your progression. You could hit a wall and have to claw your way back from the lower tiers. And yes, that was frustrating sometimes. But since when was anything worth doing a linear experience? Relationships, markets, adventures, none of them are just a straight line up and to the right. They have peaks and troughs. And without those troughs...
Path of Exile has that. Again, maybe he's talking about the intensity. It used to have more like higher peaks and lower downs. But right now it has it. I feel it.
Peaks don't mean anything. Path of Exile has removed every trough from the endgame experience. No. And in doing so...
Look, now he's talking in absolutes. It has removed everything. It has not removed everything.
Made the peaks feel like they were never really peaks at all. Now, I know the game still has some of these friction points. They haven't
Okay, he's recognizing it still has some friction points. So maybe he's now going to get into the place where he says, I am worried that they keep in this quality of life like trajectory they are having, and they will keep dumping it down. That is what he's going to say. And let me tell you, Papi, there are many quality of life things that I wish they would bring. For example, the identification thing that we talked about earlier, bigger inventories, or items taking less space, the auto sort thing, the other thing that Mark said it is not going to happen that I wish it would happen, the clicking one thing and picking up everything. Those are things that are nice quality of life that I think this guy would hate all of that. Why the fuck do I have to be playing inventory management in 2026? I don't give a flying fuck about that, man.
Appeared entirely. But they've been pushed so far down the progression curve that by the time you encounter them, you're already powerful enough that they may as well not exist. The friction is still there on paper. You just never have to feel it. Oh, your build is only doing 10 mil DPS instead of the 100 mil DPS it could be doing if you had the Ubu secret special item? Wow, you must be so miserable. Give me a break.
Now, guys, he's correct in this one. This does happen a lot. Like I don't even track the million DPS the builds do. And there are people that no, I am dealing 75 million DPS. That number is meaningless to me. I don't give a flying fuck about that number. How do I measure the build? I go in. If I kill the boss, I am doing enough damage. If I don't kill the boss, I am not doing enough damage. How much damage I am doing? I have no fucking idea. I do agree with this take, guys. And a lot of people are too number based. Like, no, we are dealing. I am dealing 100. Like, I am going to do it in smaller numbers, but imagine I am talking in millions. I am doing 150 damage. I am going to do this crazy swap, and now I am doing 152 damage. You know, like, what the fuck, man?
The addition of the new void zones, which effectively declare that T1 through T15 maps may as well not exist, is perhaps the most honest admission of what the game has become.
I absolutely had I was blasting, okay, through 1 to 10. But after tier 10, this league, this very same league that I am playing right now, and again, you can say a skill issue. Okay, I take the skill issue. I don't care. After tier 10, I did struggle to get to tier 16 maps, doing them with the corrupted thing to get the Atlas points. I did struggle a little bit. So, again, that is not true. When are we getting a Sudoku stream? Dude, I love Sudoku. I could do a Sudoku stream. The thing is that if people want to watch that, right? Also, yapping and playing Sudoku at the same time, very hard to do because you have to think about doing the Sudoku and yapping at the same time. Very hard to do. Give the Tyrant chest to every or most characters. Agree completely. I have several rants about that. The picks didn't feel as high with tier 17s around, but they removed those, and now the picks are back. Base. Fuck tier 17s. The numbers are relative. His example doesn't matter. Yeah, you are correct that the numbers are relative. That is true.
BGG didn't just remove the slow burn of early game progression, they formalized its irrelevance. And as someone who used to love scraping together maps and inching forward, that stings. Uber bosses were the ultimate confession. When the game naturally had teeth, you didn't need to manufacture a harder version of endgame bosses. The difficulty...
Okay, guys, I am sorry. But this is a very base take. And I will explain why. I know that I've been defending Uber bosses as something that it is something to strive for and something to grind for. But you have to look at the thing that is behind that, which is what he's pointing out. And it is because, why do Uber bosses exist in the first place? These are harder versions of bosses that are already there, which means that at some point, players got so powerful that the bosses suck dick, and you have to artificially introduce harder version of those bosses to be able to give players a challenge. He's correct there. He's absolutely correct there. I hated for years on WoW's model where you have several tiers of raids. Like you have the normal raid, the heroic raid, the mythic raid. I hate that shit. I hate it. At most there should be 2 in WoW. So ideal scenario is that you only have one version of the boss, right? That is the ideal scenario. And if you need Uber bosses, you make a new boss. But hey, let's be honest in here, guys, like developing a whole new boss for Uber content that not all people get there. In fact, they said in the latest interview, Andrew and Octavian, they said like it is not worth it to make like a new pinnacle boss, Uber boss, because people don't get there. When they were asked if they could make the new boss Uber, and they said it is not worth it. Leave it as the normal one, which is the one people kill, because Uber bosses, people don't fight them. So at the same time, it is like very aspirational content that not all people get there. So why design a whole new fight for that? It is like economically, it doesn't make sense. But I do agree with the background issue that it is like you are having to create a more difficult version of the same boss because the balance is out of whack and now we are too powerful. It's correct in their voice, and it is the same that happens in WoW with the mythic difficulty. The ideal scenario is different bosses, but that is too much to ask for.
Existed organically because your character wasn't a god, because your loot wasn't perfect, because the systems created resistances on their own. Uber Pinnacle bosses exist because GGG looked at what the player base had become. Players who deal damage numbers that shouldn't be physically possible. Players who clear...
Also, there is something that this... I am sorry that I paused so fast, but I just got that thought. And it is that when you have impossible content in the game, I understand that you have been playing the game for 15 years and you grind a lot and you like that there is very, very hard content. But when you have impossible content in the game, that doesn't feel good for the majority of the player base. People like beating the game. People like meeting the goal, even if you require some grind, right? So, for example, I take a month and a half to get my character to beat Ubers. There are people that do that in 2 nights, in 1 night. I take a month. To me, that journey is really good. A skill issue, whatever, I don't care. But I know that if I keep going, I will get there and I will beat the league. I will beat everything. And that is nice. If you have content that is so impossible that you have to grind like a crazy no-job man, then I just say, you know what? Fuck this shit. I am not going to do it. So GG is trying to balance that. Give the normal version of the bosses for the vast majority of the player base and give the Uber for the blasters. And I know that there are Uber blasters that even the Ubers are not a challenge. I know that. But how many players are like that? Like the streamers, that is their job. And on top of that, even between the streamers, they are the best players. Like, dude, come on, man. 99% of the player base just get the 4 void stones, and that is, I beat the game, right? It feels good to have an end goal that you get there and you beat the game. Having impossible tasks that you grind for 1,000 days to get there is not fun. It is, maybe it is fun for him, but it is not fun for the majority of the people.
Maps in seconds. Players who feel nothing, and they try to fix it from the outside in. I understand the impulse, but it's a band-aid on a self-inflicted wound. You can't design the challenge out of the game and then bolt it back on at the end and call it a feature. The damage numbers are too high because the scarcity is gone. The scarcity is gone because the grind is gone. And the grind is gone because somewhere along the way, someone decided that friction was the enemy.
I disagree entirely with everything he said in there. Friction is not gone. The grind is not gone. Maybe it is lower, but it is not gone. In fact, I would argue it is way more fun now. You waste less time doing dog shit things like having to whisper people to make a trade. Now we have the awesome asynchronous trading, a currency exchange, and you spend more time doing what you actually want to do, which is kill monsters. And you have to still kill a lot of monsters to build your character. So the grind and the friction is still there. Again, I already provided examples. I am not going to repeat them of friction in the game. And we know for a fact that they like friction. He's saying that they decided that friction is the enemy. No. If you watch a Jonathan and a Mark interview, you know that they like friction. In fact, people have been complaining since POE 2 launch that they like friction too much. People even want them to go farther removing friction.
It wasn't. It never was. The friction was the game. I want to be clear about something. I'm not making this video to lament what Path of Exile 1 has become. I'm making it as someone who desperately wants GGG to build the best game possible in Path of Exile 2. I know these opinions won't be popular on Reddit or in stream chats, but I don't need them to resonate with everyone.
Okay, he's self-aware. He's self-aware. And I agree with you. Like, I share your same sentiment that I do want them to make the best game ever in POE 2. In my opinion, dude, they are in a good trajectory. The game is getting better and better, and it was already good in 0.1.
I need them to resonate with people like Mark and Jonathan. I don't want Path of Exile 2 Worthless version to come out 5 years after its release because I don't want Path of Exile 2 Worthless version to come out.
That happens all the time, guys. If you record a video, you will know that happens all the time. And the mistake, obviously, what you do is that when you are editing the video, you cut the mistake. Sometimes it goes through and you don't get the mistake out in the editing process. It happens a lot. It has happened to me too, by the way. But again, I do have to sympathize with this statement. He's saying, because you guys have also saying it, and I also think if you like the grind and the friction, play Ruthless. That is the solution, right? But what he's saying is fundamentally, he's saying that Ruthless shouldn't exist. That is what he's saying. That the game should be ruthless. And Ruthless shouldn't exist. So he doesn't want POE 2 to eventually have Ruthless, because that would mean that the game was, I don't know how to say it, dumbed down. Let's use that term.
5 years after release, because the difficulty and grind have been so watered down, the base game is hardly recognizable. Path of Exile 2 has done a tremendous amount of things right. The campaign is an emphasis again, not a checklist you clear so you can get to the part that matters. It's part of the journey. Moments like the Act 3 monkey fight are exactly what this game needs. And yes, I have...
Okay, I do agree with that. I told you earlier, I love the campaign in POE 2. I do enjoy my time doing it.
Specific balance complaints. The idea that I can't invest enough into my passive tree to tank the monkey slam is a conversation worth having.
That is an awesome comment, Kay. Kay just made an awesome comment. He says, then my message to this guy is, I don't want Ruthless. Stop trying to push your sweaty gaming style on me. I like it as it is. And that is the thing. Then you have two groups of players that GGG has to satisfy, right? So if they satisfy this guy, then all the people that don't like Ruthless will go away. So, and I do think that that is the majority of the people. So then you have a decision. Who do you satisfy? Grinders like him or people that don't like Ruthless, which is the majority of people. Obviously, they are going to go with the majority of the people. And if you want the challenge, you go Ruthless. And having the two options is honestly the best decision, not only from a designer perspective, but also from a business perspective. And it is true. I like the game how it is. Why do I have to play your version of the game that will make me waste unnecessary time that I could be not wasting and get to the part that I actually enjoy? And it is true. Nobody is going to be scared of the monkey in 10 years. That is absolutely true.
But that's a tuning problem, not a philosophy problem. The philosophy that the campaign should be a legitimate challenge, that bosses should demand something from you, that the journey should mean something. That philosophy is right. And seeing it alive in POE 2.
Yes, and they are doing in POE 2, but again, it is already happening what you didn't like that happened to POE 1, because it is not a philosophy problem from GGG. The players learn this shit, man. People are already speed running the campaign in POE 2 because they studied the layouts, they studied the bosses, and they make guides, and then you can watch the guy and do it too. And people are blasting the campaign already. And GGG made a conscious effort of making it challenging. In 0.1, people were making videos saying the game is too hard. Articles, the campaign in POE 2 is too fucking hard. But it was because people had not figured it out yet, and they were making dog shit builds, not knowing the mechanics of the bosses. But now that you know the mechanics, you blast that shit. So it is not GG's fault. This is always going to happen no matter what they do with the campaign. Even if they do the hardest campaign ever, that it will be a bad decision, obviously, people are going to figure it out and it is going to become easy. People do, and I know it is not a common thing, but people do hitless runs in Dark Souls, right? You can always figure this shit out. And Path of Exile is not even close to that difficult to just go through the campaign.
Gives me genuine hope. But what concerns me isn't GGG. Not really. What concerns me is the feedback loop they're standing in, because the loudest voices in any gaming community are rarely the ones who want what's best for the game. They want what's best for themselves. They want...
This is true, guys. This is true. But not me. Not me, though. Lazarus, you can always trust... Well, I don't know always. Up until now, I always give my takes of what I think, because I can be wrong, of what I think it is best for the game. And I say up until now because the future is uncertain. And I don't know if in one moment the channel gets so big that you start thinking about your channel and you start thinking, okay, maybe if the game is this way, that is better for my channel. You know, that can absolutely happen. But up until now, nothing that I have said about the game, I think about the channel. The only thing was, and I clarified that yes, I think about it because of the channel, is the 2-month cadence for the leaks. I said I like that you get 2 months POE 1, 2 months POE 2, 2 months POE 1, 2 months POE 2, and I said that I like it both as a player because I get to play more leagues, and as a content creator because more leagues equals more content. That is the only time, and I clarified it. But I do agree with this take. There are many voices online that the problem is that sometimes it goes hand in hand. Like what is best for you is sometimes what is best for the game. The problem is what is best for the game is not what is best for you, and then you go against that, right?
The boss nerf because it killed them. They want the loot increased because they didn't get the drop they wanted. They want the friction removed because the friction is uncomfortable. And if you listen to enough of those voices for long enough, you start making Path of Exile 1. There are prominent voices in this community. People like Paul Steron.
I know there will be people. I am not one of those people, by the way, because I am also a 0 DPS guy. But there will be people that will see in fact, if I scroll down in the comments, someone will be saying it. Like, you are complaining about the difficulty of the game and you are doing 0 DPS to the Cardinal of Fear that is a dogshit boss. That is what they are going to say to him. Dude, look at your gameplay. You are doing 0 DPS to the Cardinal of Fear that is an absolute dogshit boss.
They want the loot increased because they didn't get the drop they wanted. They want the friction removed because the friction is uncomfortable. And if you listen to enough of those voices for long enough, you start making Path of Exile 1. There are prominent voices in this community. People like Paul Steron, who openly advocate for removing as much friction from the game as possible. Look at Last Epoch and see a model worth following, who think wisdom scrolls represent a problem that needs solving. And I want you to sit with that opinion.
I do think that unidentified items are dogshit, and I will die on that hill. Give me identified items, dude.
Actually represents. It isn't a design suggestion. It's a worldview. Remove the inconvenience. Remove anything that slows.
Why are you putting inconvenience on purpose, though? That is what I tried to say with the Sudoku shit. Why put inconvenience on purpose on the fucking game? You know this is there just to waste your fucking time. There is nothing that changes with identifying items, by the way. It is the same fucking item. The only thing that changed is that they made you pick up the shit, take it to the NPC to identify it, or pick up a scroll of wisdom and use it on the item, and then you decide if you want to keep it or not. It is the exact same shit, but with extra steps. You are making me waste time for the sake of wasting time. This is not fun to do. This doesn't add anything meaningful to the experience. This is useless friction. And that is exactly the thing I hate. Why are you putting shit in my game that is not fun, that is just to waste my fucking time? Time is the most valuable resource you have in your fucking life. People think it's money. Money sucks big compared to time. Time is never coming back. This second that I've been ranting, it went away. It is never coming back. I lost it forever. And then I will die and everything is gone. Do I want to waste seconds of my life that are never coming back identifying shit? No, I don't want to do that. It is stupid as fuck.
Slows the player down even for a single second. And we've seen this worldview win before. World of Warcraft's Dungeon Finder felt like a quality of life improvement on paper. No more standing in a city for 40 minutes looking for a tank. Just click a button and get placed into the group instantly. Convenient or frictionless. And it quietly gutted the soul of the game overnight. The friction of finding a group was where the community lived. It was where friendships formed, reputations were built, and the world felt like a place rather than a lobby.
I agree, Khaldun, and that is why I said, I don't know if you were here at the start of the video, I explained specifically that there are items that I am okay that are not identified. High-end items, unique items, maybe all uniques if you wanted to, because there is some value to the unidentified item, right? I don't know, a Watcher's Eye Yule. There is value, gameplay value, to identifying this item. It is a risk to identify it. Do you want to sell it unidentified? Do you want to sell it identified? Do you want to buy an unidentified one to identify it yourself? There is value there. There is a gameplay element. Tell me who the fuck is buying an unidentified blue item? Nobody's doing this shit. It sucks, man. Those dog shit items should be identified already.
Remember the friction? Remove the friction?
Okay, pick that night. You are fucking with me already, man. Did you buy it because it was unidentified or because you needed the base item to do something else? Okay, it was for the base, not because it was unidentified. So don't fuck with me. You wanted the base to craft, okay, but not because, no, I need an unidentified one. It just happened to be unidentified.
And you remove the glue holding everything together. WoW really never recovered from that decision, and most people who played through it know exactly the moment the magic left. GGG has always been a studio that listens to its community. That's one of the things I love about them. But there's a difference between listening and capitulating. And the history I spent this entire video walking you through is what capitulation looks like over 15 years. So this is my message to Mark and Jonathan directly. You know what made this game matter. You built it. Don't let the people who never want it to be hard in the first place define what it becomes next. The player.
I do agree with this. When you isolate this statement from everything else, I do agree. But I also think that Mark and Jonathan know that. They don't capitulate to everything. They have put their foot down on certain stuff. But they also know that if the vast majority of the player base dislikes something, they have to take a look of why is this happening, right? Again, you can go back and watch that interview where they talk about the whiteboard. And Jonathan said the very first thing they put in the whiteboard, it was the game is a slog. There are people that enjoy the slog. Dude, I liked it. I thought the game was fine. But if the majority of the player base is telling you, no, it is not fine, as a game designer, you have to take a look at that and see what the fuck is going on, you know?
Players who fell in love with the early days of Ray Class were looking for a world where progress was meaningful because it was slow and deliberate, where you went to bed at night thinking about the item you almost had, the build you were inching towards, the map tier you were finally approaching, where the grind wasn't something you endured to get the good part. The grind was the good part. That feeling of working towards something that matters, of earning power one hard-fought step at a time, is the rarest thing in gaming.
Again, I do agree that that feels good, and I do agree that many games, and Diablo 4 is an example, skip that, and that is why they are dodging. But that is exactly why Path of Exile is the best one, because it is there still. I think that he has a lot of good points, boys. It is definitely not rage bait because he has a lot of good points. Maybe, as you guys are saying in the chat, it was not the best way of explaining them, and I totally empathize with that because as English being my second language, I also don't explain things in the best way that I could, right? So I definitely sympathize with that. But again, I think this is a reflection of him being a veteran player and reminiscing of a time where stuff was harder or grindier or with more friction for the sake of being like that. And it doesn't apply to today's game. And the game, you still need to grind. There is still friction. And I don't agree that everything is easy and for free. And that is the reason why it is widely considered that POE 1 and 2 are the most difficult to get into ARPGs, the most complex ARPGs, the ARPGs with the most mechanics and interactions and stuff like that. And the new players are even intimidated of getting into these games. It is certainly like that. It is certainly like that. You could say that it was more like that in the past. I don't know. And that is why I think that a lot of his takes have to do with that.
Most studios don't even try to create it anymore. GGG did. For a long time, they were the only ones who did. And somewhere along the way, they started listening to people who never wanted it in the first place. You have a second chance with Path of Exile too. Don't spend it chasing the players who will never be satisfied until every obstacle is removed and every reward is guaranteed. Build it for the ones who are still grinding, the ones who never needed it to be easy, the ones who will happily spend 3 hours farming Cruel Edge if it means the support gem they find actually means something when they slot it in. Thank you guys for watching. I know this is pretty controversial and some of these ideas are definitely not shared throughout the entire Path of Exile community. So if you disagree, let me know why in the comments. I'd love to engage in a little bit of internet flame and debate. I'm not shy about it. So please, let me know what you think about this stuff. Really appreciate you watching if you stuck around this far. Consider dropping a like and subscribe for more Path of Exile.
I like the video, boys. I like the videos. I am going to give it the like at the subscribe. If I got heated, it was not at you, brother. It is that the identification thing is, I get tilted with identification. I hate rarity more than identification, by the way. Rarity, I hate it way more than identification. But it was not against you, brother. When I ranted about identification, it was not because of you. I think the video is a good video, and you bring up some strong points, but I disagree with 80 to 90% of the things, by the way. And it is not because the base argument you are presenting is wrong, but it is because I don't feel that the game is like that, right? Like when you say grinding, good grind is fun. I agree. Progressing your character is fun. I agree. The game is like that. That is the part I disagree, that he's saying the game does not have these things. And I think the game does have them. Maybe he thinks that the intensity decrease with time. I don't know. But I do think it is a good video. And it is rare that I have so much to talk about in a video. So it is definitely controversial. It definitely is even entertaining. And yes, brother, keep going.
Related content. There are definitely some more hardcore things coming down the pipeline too that I'm excited to get my hands around. So hope you guys enjoyed the clips. Thanks for watching. See you next time.
Yeah, we'll let them know.
Okay. But the start, the
Like,
thing is
what
that
did
the start is definitely, the start is rage bait, boys. When he puts the clown wig on Palseron, this part is definitely clickbait for sure. Because, and I immediately felt attacked because he's putting the clown wig on Palseron for giving a take that I had given many times. So I immediately say, dude, am I a clown too? But overall, hey, dude, good video. Even if I disagree, I think it is a good video. And let's see what he keeps doing, dude. What do you guys think? Am I right? Am I wrong? Am I a clown? Am I a genius? Let me know everything in the comments below. I love reading comments even when they don't agree with me. Also, remember to like the video, to subscribe to the channel, all that cool stuff. Guys, thanks for being here. You guys are awesome. God bless you. And remember, don't be afraid ever, because this is just a ride.